I'm Anna, and this is the Bellevue Bound podcast. I'm excited to be your host for all things culinary, and you can't talk about food in Bellevue without talking about our next guest. Chef John Howie is the award-winning restaurateur behind Sea Star Restaurant and Raw Bar, John Howie Steak, and Whiskey by John Howie in our walkable downtown Bellevue, as well as Beardslee Public House and Wildwood Spirits Co. in nearby Bothell and Kirkland. He was nominated for a James Beard Award in 2013 for Outstanding Restaurateur and has cooked at the James Beard Foundation House on 5 separate accounts. He is also the author of a cookbook called Passion and Palate, Recipes for a Generous Table, and he sure is generous. He has donated millions of dollars to hundreds of charities over the years. Staying busy is in his nature, and he is one of the kindest people I have ever met. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Chef. It's truly an honor.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
Oh,
it was very nice.
Well deserved. And before I start, I do want to tell you about your new chocolate dessert at John Howie Steak.
Yes.
It was quite possibly the most decadent bite of like chocolatey, melty goodness that's not too sweet, but still incredibly rich.
And it's kind of fun, too.
Yeah.
And it's gluten-free.
It's gluten-free.
Yeah. So the cake inside there is gluten-free, and when you pour that really hot caramel sauce over the top and it sort of reveals the cake underneath, it's a pretty cool little dish.
It was really, really delicious. Thank you so much for creating that dish.
Yeah.
So your story begins in Chicago, Illinois, relocated to the Pacific Northwest while you were quite young, and your first professional kitchen was actually right here in Bellevue when you were 15 years old.
That's correct.
What were you like as a teenager on the streets of Bellevue, and what was Bellevue like?
Well, Bellevue was quite a bit smaller. Mm-hmm. A little more of a bedroom community even back then, even more so than today.
Yeah.
And, it was, for me, it was a little unusual is that I had kind of gone through some critical things in my childhood. My father being killed in a car accident in 1964, my mom remarrying, and that's how we made it out here.
Yeah.
And then some things happened and family things kind of came up. And so I was actually living on my own at 15 when I had that first job.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was going to high school still. And I worked at a restaurant called the Refectory. And you got to be a really old Bellevue person to remember the Refectory. It's now a hair salon on Main Street in Bellevue.
Oh, I know that spot.
Yeah,
it's the barber. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a Thai restaurant. It's been a few other things since then. But it was called the Refectory back then. And that was my first job in the restaurant industry. And I worked there as a busboy. I'd go to school, get there to be a busboy. And that's when Washington State still had a tip credit. So if you were tipped on your job, they could pay you half of federal minimum wage. So I made $1.10 an hour.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, that's not the 1930s. It was the 1970s.
Did you make enough?
Well, I got some tips, too.
Yeah.
But I was really only there for about 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a job on Auto Row in Bellevue, which was called Emmett's.
Okay.
And Emmett's was named after the great-grandfather of Emmett Cohen was his name. He's the great-grandfather of the people who started Metropolitan Grill and those other restaurants that they had, Hiram's at the Locks and some of those. So it was in honor of their great-grandfather that they started Emmett's. And it was a fine dining restaurant with a tableside flambe and stuff. I never did any of that because I was still only just about to turn 16.
Okay.
And I learned that I got that job because I walked in there one day and the sous chef needed a pantry cook and he hired me on the spot for the job. I was kind of curious as to why because I didn't have a whole lot of restaurant experience, but later on he told me that he hired me because he wanted to be there when I got out of the closet. When I came out of the closet. He was a gay man. His only issue is he's still waiting. So, but back then you could kind of do that stuff. Now that would be a little more difficult to get away with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually learned every job in the kitchen at that restaurant. And within 6 months, I was there alone at a night with a dishwasher on Sunday and Monday nights.
Yeah.
And so I could cook everything in the restaurant at that point.
You were just practicing by yourself, or just?
Well, I actually ran the restaurant.
Oh.
On those nights, on Sundays and Mondays, I was the only cook there. Now, we're talking about Bellevue in 1975, and it wasn't exactly, or 1976, and it wasn't exactly a very busy restaurant on Sunday and Monday nights. But I did have some cool experiences there. One was one night Ann and Nancy Wilson came in.
Okay.
So, you know, the co-sisters of Heart, the group Heart.
Okay.
And they were from Bellevue. I don't know if you know that.
I don't.
Yeah, but they were from Bellevue. So they came in one night, which was kind of fun and cool.
Yeah.
And so it was a unique experience, and I learned a lot there.
Okay. Well, what is one culinary mistake from back then that would make Chef John Howie today walk out of the room if you got angry? Do you get angry?
Not nearly as much as I did when I was younger. I've kind of found that being angry doesn't do a lot for anybody, and really probably not a lot for me, because, you know, my blood pressure would go up then. But I try to take things in a little bit more and not be too angry. But a culinary mistake from back then?
Yeah.
One that I made or one that somebody else made?
One that you made, ideally.
I'll tell you my worst culinary mistake I ever made, and it's a little different. There used to be a restaurant called Sea Galley.
Okay.
And when I was working at one restaurant, I felt like I needed to work a second job to make more money, and I went to Sea Galley.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired me, and I went in there, and I had one day there in that restaurant, and then I walked up to the chef and said, "I'm sorry, but I won't be coming back tomorrow.
Okay.
You don't have to pay me for today. I'm fine." But they had so many things. They had a prime rib that was already pre-cooked in a package, and it was a lot of that type of thing. So it was not what I really wanted to do. I'd already been at a couple of nice restaurants that I'd learned how to cook at, so it wasn't what I wanted to do. But my worst culinary mistake, probably creatively, was when I made a sauce out of cantaloupe. It never made it to anybody's table because I tasted it and went, "Oh my God, don't serve that." So sometimes, you know, you're trying to be a little different, a little creative, and usually it works. Most of the time it works for me. That one did not work.
So a lot of trial and error in cooking.
There is. And I used to have a friend who used to say, "Do you just come into the kitchen, grab a bunch of things, throw them up in the air, and whatever lands on the table, that's what you make?" Well, no, but I like to try a lot of different stuff.
So last year I was at your restaurant filming an episode of Bellevue Eats with Chef Shota Nakajima. And watching you two talk about mushrooms is like watching two kids in a candy store. We are so fortunate to be living in the Pacific Northwest, where you can go foraging just 20 minutes outside of Bellevue in the Issaquah Alps. How is it that being surrounded by this landscape has shaped the way that you think about ingredients?
Well, that's a great question. And you know, we do have a bounty of a lot of things. So you think of a bounty of stuff in like warmer climates in California and that type of thing. And it is more that way if you're talking about citrus or you're talking about vegetables that you can have year round. But here we have great summers where we have amazing fruits and amazing vegetables. And then we have year round the sound and the ocean and everything that we can harvest from there, from clams and mussels and oysters to the best salmon in the world to the best crab in the world, which is Dungeness crab.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can harvest all of that here locally. And so it really makes you want to utilize those local products. And we've gotten even more lucky because we've got farmers now that have changed the way they farm and are making some amazing things. And from cheeses to, like you said, the foraging of mushrooms. There's a couple companies out there. We don't even have to forage ourselves, which is good because we don't, as chefs, have a lot of time. So there's a place called Found and Foraged, and they go out and they find those mushrooms. And we're probably the only people that are okay with a random wildfire that was started by lightning. Because what happens is for the following years after that, that area that has been burnt, you get morel mushrooms.
Why is that? How does that happen?
I don't know why. I'm not a scientist to be able to tell you why, but that's where they find amazing amounts of what they call burn morels, and they're beautiful mushrooms.
Yeah, those are some of the rarest, right?
Yeah, and we've had a lot of forest fires in the past, and as long as they're natural forest fires, it's and they don't hurt anybody. They're great things to have, because that's God kind of recreating that space and tilling the earth, really.
Yeah.
So it's unique.
That is very true. Okay, so you also once said that your favorite meal while watching the Mariners play at Safeco Field, now T-Mobile Park, is a steaming hot barbecued beef sandwich. T-Mobile Park has since added dozens of new dishes since this season alone. You can now get clam chowder, the Ichiro sushi roll, at katsu curry rice, and you can even get ice cream nachos. Have you ever eaten the fried grasshoppers that were introduced in 2017? And were you cheering on the Mariners this playoffs this year?
Well, I'm a 30-year Mariners season ticket holder, so yes, I was cheering on the Mariners, and I even had a ticket for Game 6 of the ALCS in Toronto that I didn't end up going to. I have some family on the East Coast, and we were visiting them, so I bought a ticket, and then I decided not to go. But it was I was cheering them on the whole way. And yes, I did try the grasshoppers once. not I mean, it's kind of just a salty, crispy snack is what it is. But in some people's minds, it's really hard to eat that.
It's hard to swallow.
Exactly. It is kind of hard to swallow at times. But, that sandwich was a very good sandwich. And it had the gentleman who owned that barbecue had a sauce called the Man.
Okay.
And the Man was a habanero sauce that if you took a little tiny bit on the end of a toothpick, he would only let you take a little bit on the end of the toothpick and put it into your mouth. It was so strong. It was incredible. And you could have fun with people and say, oh, I bet you can't even try this. But you take a toothpick and you put a little bit on your sandwich and you would taste it the whole game.
That's hilarious.
But it was fun. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's no sports spirit like the Seattle sports spirit here. It's pretty grand.
It is. And when you have some really long-term suffering fans, they become even more passionate and love to see it when the team finally does come through with something.
Yeah.
I mean, for 14 years, I was the taste of the NFL chef for the Seahawks as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I love the Seahawks, and to watch them in my second year, they made their first Super Bowl. In like my 9th year or 10th year is when they finally won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to be there for that, to see that. I think they're getting close again, so we'll see.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. So Sea Star Restaurant and Raw Bar opened on March 11th, 2002 as Bellevue's first seafood restaurant. And back then, you've told me that not everyone thought it was a good idea. So,
well, it's actually kind of a funny story, because there's a couple chefs who are, I believe they're both passed away now, but Carmine, who has a restaurant in Bellevue now, his family still has a restaurant there, Carmine's. And Luigi, who had a restaurant in Bellevue Square for a while, they came to Sea Star one night, and they looked around and checked out the restaurant, sat at the bar and had some things, and they looked at me and they said, you have some really big cojones. It's a big restaurant. It was a lot to do. And so they both had been in Bellevue for a few years, so they kind of had experience. But yeah, they didn't think it was the best idea. And when we first opened, we had some things that were a little difficult. My chairs that are in my restaurant, we didn't have those chairs. The company that I purchased from had to give me these old English, like king chairs that
like
we had in the restaurant.
throne-ish?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's what they had. That's what we opened with. We opened with no signs on the restaurant. And so there was a lot of different things. And it was 6 months after 9/11 and right in the middle of the dot-com bust.
Yeah.
So I actually would spend a lot of time walking out in the dining room, checking back with people, seeing how much they enjoyed their meals. And if they said they really liked everything, I'd say, you know what? Do me a favor. tell your friends so you can come back 6 months from now and we'll still be here.
Aww.
Now it's 24 years later and we're still there. So that's
24 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, well, it'll be 24 in March. We're 23 and a half now, really.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you said in your book that when you opened Sea Star, you wanted it to be a positive influence on the community and to never say no to any charitable organization. How and why has that become your mantra?
Well, I think it started when I was at Palisade for Restaurants Unlimited. So I was the opening chef at Palisade. And it was at a time when we were, as chefs, starting to become a little bit celebrity-like.
Yeah.
And people were, Food Network was just starting and we were getting on television shows and things like that. And so it also allowed us to promote causes. And I was allowed to do that a little bit with Restaurants Unlimited, but it was limited. yeah, I know. Okay, pun intended. But it was limited, and we couldn't do as much as I wanted to do. And so when I opened my own restaurants, I really wanted to be able to support the community in many different ways. And I say I never say no. We don't always say yes either, because especially lately, it's gotten really difficult.
Yeah.
But what we will say is somebody will ask us for something and we'll always have an option for them of something we can do for them. And I mean, at one point we were doing over 800 gift certificates a year. I had at least 12 to 15 individual events that I would sell at auctions and go out and do myself at people's homes or at a specific venue or something like that. And so that's how that money has been contributed. I look at that as, so when we sell something for a large amount of money, that's kind of how it adds into those millions of dollars. Now, I haven't probably utilized millions of dollars, and maybe I have at this point utilized millions of dollars to create that, but not the over 10 million now that we've raised. So it's been great, and it's something I always wanted to do. I think it's a part of who I am as a Christian and a follower of Jesus, and I think that giving back to the community and finding people who really need help and working for them it's a great thing to do.
It becomes a joy almost.
It is very much so. I mean, that's how we for years did our Thanksgiving meal at the restaurant.
Yeah.
One year I just looked at my wife and said, maybe we should do something different on Thanksgiving. And so we started in year 2 at Sea Star, opening up the restaurant for Thanksgiving meals.
Yeah.
And we gave local organizations times to put reservations in for people who needed help.
And you offered like the whole Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings for free?
Yes. And I had a lot of support from my purveyors, the people who sold me turkey, the people who sell me vegetables and dairy and that type of stuff. They would support with everything on their side as well, which was really great. That allowed us to be able to do that. Everybody who worked that day worked for free. It was volunteer time. So people didn't have to work. They were told that they could have the day off or they could come and work. And many of them chose to come and work for many, many years. It all kind of went away after 2020, though.
Okay. Yeah. Is that because like nonprofits kind of changed?
At first we couldn't do it
because
in
of the
2020
pandemic.
because of the pandemic. And what we did that year is we gave away, if people bought a full turkey dinner to take home and finish at home, we gave another one to HopeLink, and they gave it away. That year we made 200 full turkey dinners. It was a little bit of a nightmare. And my guy said, don't ever do this again. I mean, we brought in a refrigerated truck and parked it in our loading dock to be able to do this. We started cooking turkeys 4 days before and then had all the instructions on how you had to finish everything and stuff. But we were able to give away 100 meals to 100 families, full turkey meals. So a whole turkey and all the sides and trimmings.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah. And so basically we did it for free because the purchased meal paid for the second one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. And then we went back to doing the in-house deal for a couple of years, but none of the organizations had the same structure.
Yeah.
And they had a hard time filling it. And so it was feeling like we were spending money and not getting a result. So we've put it on hold for now.
That makes sense.
We'll see if it comes back.
Hopefully in the future.
I would hope so. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, at any given year, you're making big contributions to hundreds of charities.
We are.
And so what is harder, trying to beat Bobby Flay or cooking as the representing chef for the Seattle Seahawks at the Kick Hunger Challenge to raise money for Food Lifeline, and your entire shipment of ingredients suddenly disappears?
Well, I haven't had that happen. Well, actually, we did kind of have that happen, but it wasn't for... So the Kick Hunger Challenge was something that came later from... SOS, Share Our Strength.
Okay.
And that happened in like the last 6 years of the Taste of the NFL.
Yeah.
But the first year when we were in Detroit, the first Super Bowl, they always used to take the 2 Super Bowl chefs from the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl, and they would do what's called a dip-off.
Okay.
And if you won the dip-off, you got an upside-down gold helmet, and you were the winner. But it was on like Good Morning America or whatever network had the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
You were on their morning show the day of the game.
Yeah.
And so in Detroit, we did the Taste of the NFL the night before, because you always did that on Saturday. And then we had our product ready to go, and it was a Dungeness crab dip that I had made, and we were going to just have to heat it and bring it to the game the morning, probably 12 hours before the game, really, but and then go against Pittsburgh, who had a bean dip. So kind of had I thought we were, shoe in there, Dungeness crab versus black beans. Yeah, okay. But so I went to the airport. It's snowing like crazy.
Yeah.
I went to the airport to pick up my son and my friend who were coming for the game.
Okay.
Because we'd gotten tickets for the game. And I get a call from my sous chef. He says, "Where's the crab dip?" I said, "Well, it's in the walk-in on this shelf next to the bean dip for the Pittsburgh Steelers." And he goes, "It's not there. It's gone."
Oh, no.
I said, "Is the Pittsburgh bean dip there?" And he says, "Yeah, it's there." No, we don't think that Pittsburgh did anything. We don't think that they were trying to win by losing my crab dip. But what happens is when you do the Taste of the NFL, there's a lot of leftover food.
Yeah.
And so they package it all up for food banks locally.
Oh, that makes sense.
Somebody packaged up my crab dip and gave it to the food bank. So at midnight, I get back to the hotel. We've got to go to the store. So I tell my sous chef, "You go to the store and you call me.
Mm-hmm.
Try to find Dungeness crab. No Dungeness crab, of course. Frozen blue crab. Okay. Get some onions. Get Reggiano Parmesan cheese. Okay. You get whatever Parmesan cheese you can get."
Okay.
And so we get all this stuff and we bring it back to the hotel room, and we're making the crab dip in the bathroom of the hotel room.
Wait, how are you cooking it?
Well, we don't cook it then.
Okay.
So it's just raw ingredients prepared and placed into a dish that we're going to cook it in.
Oh, okay.
So then we take it all down to the stadium, because it's actually happening this year. The event was on the floor on the field of the stadium.
Yeah.
At Ford Field. And there's 13 servicemen there, and Joe Theismann, and these guys are all going to taste and determine who's the winner. Well, we also find out right before we get there that there's nowhere to cook anything except for the 6th floor up above. And the chef for the Detroit field, for Ford Field, doesn't want to give us an oven to put stuff in, because he's got 65,000 people coming that he's got to feed later that day. And we convinced him that it was okay for us to use an oven for about 30 minutes. Yeah. But we get out, we both are up there heating up our dips. Mm-hmm. We walk out of the kitchen, and there's dogs and stuff. It's sniffing dogs, and they're not letting us use the elevator. We had to run back down. You know how they have the switchback stairs? Yeah. They were not stairs, but ramps. Yeah. We had to carry everything down the ramp. So by the time we both got down to the floor, we're both like sweating and looking just distraught. Yeah. And then we had to present it on Good Morning America. But
did they like it?
Yeah. Actually, they liked the crab dip better than the bean dip, even though it was made in a bathroom. We didn't tell them that. So, but yeah, I got the helmet, the upside down gold helmet that year.
So my sources also tell me that you enjoy being very competitive.
That's true.
And you, with the Seahawks, raised the most amount of money among all 32 NFL teams for 3 consecutive years.
We did. It took quite a bit to beat us, too. Yeah. And that was with, I don't know if you know or remember Craig Terrell, but the Tasty NFL was a player and a chef who would work together to do this. And what they started doing was, so when you would do the Tasty NFL, the money that we'd earn at that event on that Saturday night, most of it would go to the city you were in. So about 70% of it went to the city you were in. Okay. The other 30% was split by the rest of the teams and brought back to your city and given to the food bank. So it was the only party in all of the Super Bowl for years and years that was called the Party with a Purpose.
Nice.
So yeah, but then they started about, I don't know, when probably like 2015 it was, I would bet, or 2014. They decided they were going to try and raise some more money during the year coming into the Taste of the NFL. And then the team that earned the most money would win the Kick Hunger Challenge, and they would get an additional $10,000 donated to their
home city. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so we did a whole bunch of crazy stuff to start with. From Craig Terrell was a former defensive lineman, great guy. Yeah. And he was also a musician, had a band.
Oh, okay.
And so he sat out in front of Seattle Sea Star one time playing music while I was serving people tastes and looking for donations. And we ended up having a lot of fun and a lot of different events that we did, including we did a taste of the Seahawks at the stadium.
Yeah.
And got lots of different chefs to come in and participate and earned a lot of money that way. And we ended up doing a poker game there. Yeah. And the poker game was great. And Gary Payton, who's one of my original investors in Sea Star, he came and was like the hit of the show. People loved playing against Gary because he was talking like he always talked. So, but a lot of fun. And so we earned a lot of money there. And we were 3 years running. We won it each year.
Yeah.
And so then finally the Patriots beat us one year.
Wow, we have so much to talk about that we're going to have to cut this into 2 episodes. So make sure that you subscribe and tune in for next time.
This video was recorded and produced by Just Talk Studios, the premier video podcasting studio in Bellevue, Washington. Visit justtalkstudios.com to learn more and book your session today.